everybody, welcome to Emily Kate Made This. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. Welcome to my knitting slash sewing slash general crafty YouTube channel. Here we will talk about mostly knitting, but there is occasionally sewing. I will not take that segment out, I will sometimes be doing sewing, but yeah, knitting is my jam. So welcome. This episode comes to you from a very loud Berlin. It's like they know. It's like the builders know. You press record and that's when the welding starts. So hopefully it won't be too annoying. I know when I edit my video, I can hear everything in my headphones, but when I play something back on my tablet, I don't hear everything. So hopefully you will not be hearing all the noise that is going on outside. Okay. I have a finished object. If you were watching my last episode, it was a Frog or Marry It episode. And I had all of this beautiful hand-dyed yarn that I wanted to use, but I had just not succeeded. Just completely not succeeded. So I ripped out my attempt of the golden oak tee, or golden oak tank that I was turning into a tee. Wow, that's a lot for the mouth. And I ripped that out because I was not enjoying it, and I have been informed it can get a bit more enjoyable, but it was too late. It was too late. I ripped it out. And I made up this tee. So if you were watching my last episode, I mentioned to you that YouTube recommended to me a video from many moons back, like 12 years or something, from a woman whose name, I think it was I Knit with Cat Fur. I'll put it here and down below. There was this just random recommendation for a broomstick lace tutorial on how to do it. And I watched it and I thought, that looks very fun. So I decided I would add it to this mishmash of things. So almost all of these tees have been based on the same thing. I made a vintage top a while ago, and it's basically just two squares and you seam them together at the top. And I've done different things with them. I've done like added extra stitches to the side. I've just left it and let it hang over. I've done neckbands. I've messed around with it, but essentially it is just a square. So it's super easy. So if you have been watching my latest videos, you'll know I love myself some tees. I love knitting basically squares. They're basically just flat squares that are seamed together at the shoulders, and ta-da, it's done. It's very nice and easy, and I'm enjoying it immensely. And it's a really great base. You just have a plain section either here and lace there, or you could have all plain here and lace on the bottom, like my latest Mount Pleasant tee. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it somewhere. And I just really enjoy making them. So they're not difficult to make, and you can modify them in any which way, however you wish, which is what I have done with this one. So when I came across the broomstick lace tutorial on YouTube, I thought, I just need to decide if I want it on the bottom or the top, and I just need to decide how big I want it. So I did actually cast on the bottom. It's hard to show because the camera goes out of focus every time I try, but let's try. I made this flat, so I cast on the bottom and I did one, it's a 3, I've already forgotten because I've started another lace project. It's a 3-row repeat, I think. So I just did one of those repeats for the bottom. Then I attached it to my handy dandy new friend in life, my knitting machine, and did all the stockinette on my knitting machine. And then I picked up those stitches and knitted up the broomstick lace. and it went faster than I expected, which was very nice. It's fiddly, it's very fiddly, but it's really easy. And there's one row where it's basically just slipping and getting rid of all of the stitches and slipping and like that sounds weird. It's very easy, it's just fiddly. But it is something that you can do while watching a YouTube or movies or whatever. It's nice. So I highly recommend. I will link the tutorial below. It was just easy. I just decided I'll knit it flat, then knit the back as the seam and seam together, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to do anything with the arms. And at the end I decided I'm totally fine with how it sits. I could technically go around, pick it up and add a rib, but I don't know that I need to. I did 2 rows of moss stitch rib for the neck because I had to figure out how I wanted to close the neck. I couldn't just leave the stitches loose, obviously, but just 1 round seemed not enough. But then as I was on the 2nd round, I thought, no, this is high enough, I'm actually okay. So I did mess it up with the stitch count thing. Basically, when I made my Mount Pleasant tee, I ended with something like 45. I knitted 45 stitches and then I bound off and then I had 45 stitches and it fits. I did do a neckband as well on that one, but on this one I bound off 30 stitches and it was so small I could not get my head through the head hole thing. I couldn't fit my head. So I had no idea how to then rebind off the stitches, like bind them off so that I could 3 needle bind them off, because at that point they were all loose. So I just fudged it. So it's now this design detail of little triangle. Obviously I don't care, it doesn't bother me at all. I think you probably wouldn't notice that I'd made a mistake if I didn't just tell you. So it's fine, but it's good to note for future tees that 30 stitches is not enough. What else? I make this just based off of my gauge, so I know that I need it to be about 33, 34 inches, and I make sure that whatever my stitch count is going to give me that, and that's how I work everything out. So it's easy. And I also know that I have about 7.5 to 8 inches from the top of my shoulder down to my armpit, and as I always say, I actually don't work in inches unless it's sewing and knitting, because the number's smaller and my brain can deal with smaller numbers a lot easier when calculating, and a lot of my calculation sheets are in inches. But in general, I don't work in inches. So about between 18 and 20 centimetres from the top of my shoulder to under my armpit. So that's how much I know to knit up. I always find it strange when people say they don't like bottom up jumpers because they can't get the length right. And I don't understand this. If you know that any jumper you have, you want it to be, say, 10 inches from your armpit to the bottom of the top, then knit that. You don't need to try it on if you know that that's the length you want. It baffles me. It really does. There is one exception. When I am doing a colourwork yoke and I need it to be like 7.5 or 8 inches, if I get to the end of that and I haven't finished the colourwork repeat, I will then just place the colourwork continuing repeat onto the arms and onto the rest of the body after I have split the yoke, and then it doesn't really matter. But if I was going bottom up, I would only find out at the end that my gauge and everything was off, but that would still be my own fault for not having checked my row gauge. But yeah, I'm very confused by this when people don't know that it's going to fit, because I think if you know your measurements, you'll know it's going to fit. But hey ho, that's just a random tangent. What else? Yes, the yarn. The yarn is Der Fliegende Kiwi. Where's my needle? It isn't even there, it's just... Oh, it really doesn't want to show it. It is Fliegende Kiwi Garner, Merino Extra Fine Sock Wool, and 100 grams, 400 meters, and it is in Pine Tree. And as per usual, I have so much left. I'm a small human being, so I only needed 115 grams to make this. And that 15 grams is what is rage inducing. I need that 15 grams, otherwise I couldn't get it to be, I mean, it's short, so I can't make it shorter, then it won't fit with anything. But that 15 grams means I need that second ball of yarn. And now I have like 90 something grams left. Or 85, I don't know. I basically have enough for almost another one, but not. So I'm going to have to do a bit of Frankenstein again, like I did with my Mount Pleasant, and mix it. But I haven't figured out what yet. Because my plan was, I thought this would take up so much more wool, so I thought I'll make these into socks. But now I keep thinking, oh, but look, it's just such a hefty amount of wool that I could make something else. So I don't know, I'm still in indecision mode, but I'm so happy I have actually made something with this wool, because it's been in my stash for 2 years. It had been attempted into 3 things now, and finally we have success. So that is all I will say about this one, I think. And I have to go and change to show you my other one. Back. So, finished object number 2. This has actually been finished for a little while now, but I haven't recorded a video where I have been able to talk to you about it, because I think my last 2 videos have been non-podcast format, so I didn't get to show you it. So this is attempt number 2 on my knitting machine. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I got a Knitax 1956. Nope, I got a vintage Knitax knitting machine from 1956, and I have been playing around with it, and I did do a whole episode about it that I'll hopefully link somewhere. So on the first episode I showed you my very first knit. It was a rainbow stripy tee, and then when I discovered the issues I had made, the problems I had made and how to fix them, I used up some extra old stash to make this one, and this one is mistake free, so yay! I changed up the way I did the rib on it, and I obviously used different wool, and I am really happy with it. Yeah, this is a bit meh, but I don't care. I think it's fine. It's just a casual tee. And if someone's going to stand there and be like, well, look at the shape of her shoulder, I don't need them in my life, so I don't care. And I think over time with washing and wearing, it will loosen up anyway. I'm trying to remember if I have washed this. I blocked the front and the back, then I seamed it, and I don't know if I have washed it since. So that could also help. Anywho, it's cotton, just plain cotton that I had in my stash, and I knitted the bottom, and then went up, and I didn't do anything to it. I didn't add any sleeves, I didn't add a neckband, I just bound off, and I did the 3 needle bind off. I change it up. Sometimes I do it so you can see the seam, and sometimes I do it so it's hidden. I don't know when. I just decide at some point this one will be on the outside, this one will be on the inside. So this is an outside, and I'm very, very pleased with it. It's very comfortable. I loved that it could fly through all that stockinette and give me a tee within, I think it was maybe I did it over 2 or 3 days, I can't remember. If you were very speedy and have muscle, you could make this so quickly, but I do not. I also managed to get repetitive strain from going whoop, whoop, whoop on my machine. So it's not like it's pain-free. It's just, it's very fun and I really enjoy it, but it does involve muscle, and yeah, that's something I don't have. But alas, 3 days versus 2 months, I could handle that. So very happy with it. What else can I say? It's basically a square that I sewed together at the top. Done. I think that's it. I think that's all I can say. 1950s inspired cotton tee made on my 1950s machine. Okay, that is the finished objects. I have 2 works in progress. One I cannot remember if I have shown you, but I think I did. It has been abandoned for a month. I didn't even add this to my Frog or Marry because it's become part of the furniture to the point I don't even see it. We have a 3-seater couch, and I've had this tray on the middle seat right next to me, and in it is a knitting project. I don't see it anymore. It sits right next to me, but I just don't see it. So I decided to bring it into this room, and maybe I will actually pick it up and finish it. I started a sock. There were a combination of reasons for doing it. Number one, it has a red Swedish house on it. Sold right there. Number two, I wanted to practice, or learn actually, how to do a toe up sock. That was a good time to do it. And I also wanted to try ladderback jacquard because there were so many colours. And originally, the pattern I believe is Intarsia, I think. But I could not get my head around Intarsia at all. I watched in the round. I could not. No, brain, no. I can get it flat. I understand the concept flat, but not in the round. So I decided ladderback jacquard it is. But I ended up getting a little bit too keen and deciding I'm going to ladderback jacquard all 4 colours all at the same time. This is a genius idea. And at the time, when I was doing it, it took so long, but it was so interesting to learn this technique. And then once I had got the technique, I thought, I have to do this all over again for the second sock. That enthusiasm is not there. Then I put it down, and then I never picked it up again. It's probably more than like 5 weeks. So I will show you the progress, and hopefully the enthusiasm will come back. I have tried it on, and it does fit, so this is positive. There's so many balls of yarn attached. It looks, that's probably another reason, it looks rough. I think it will look better when it's blocked and on a foot versus not on a foot, because it's chunky. Like, here's all plain, one colour, then you get all the ladderback jacquard, and you know, you have eyes, you can see, it looks a mess. But I'm hoping when it's on the foot and blocked, it's very dark in here suddenly. It will be adorable. Let's just pretend we're in denial here. It's going to be amazing. I still have the clouds to finish. There's another maybe 2 centimeters of cloud to knit. Then the rib. Then we start again from the top. It is crazy on the inside. It's overwhelming. They will be very, very toasty warm socks. So originally, I found this pattern. It's Swedish, and I came across it on the same website that I found my Swedish bonnet on. And obviously, not knowing how to speak Swedish, I didn't know that they were for about 3-year-olds, I think. 3 to 4 or something like that. So none of the stitch count worked for me. So I have just taken the house chart and I've just stuck that onto a normal foot, adult size sock foot chart thing. And I'm doing them. I really want them, but I don't know how long it's going to take to get the motivation. When I started these, I discovered scientific fact here. Toe up takes longer to knit than top down. That's a fact. No, I'm joking. I just found it so boring to knit from the toe to the heel. I don't know what it is, but it took me ages. Usually it takes me a couple of days to knit the foot, but this took me something stupid like 2 weeks to knit the foot. Then I did my shadow wrap heel, and then I was whizzing through. This was great fun. I sat there for evenings doing this, learning the techniques, seeing the house grow, and then once I realised like how fucking ugly it looks, I stopped. But I will continue because it's hours of my life put into this, and I'm just gonna hope that with blocking and wearing it will look nicer. And in the future, I will not be doing all 4 colours. I was basically trying to avoid doing duplicate stitch because I don't like doing duplicate stitch when you've got this small circumference and you're sticking a needle in and then pulling it through and then having to like, it's not like embroidery where you've got a completely flat empty back that you can put the needle through and pull out. You get it all stuck and all the wool gets stuck inside, and in my experience of trying to do this duplicate stitch on mittens and socks, it's very frustrating. But I'm going to do that because doing all 4 colours was stupid. And I had to catch them, and there are some points where I've just not caught it and it's shown at the front, and yeah. But next sock will hopefully go faster because I will do 2 colours with the occasional 3 where I have to, and it will all be fine. Then I will have some adorable Swedish house socks and all will be well, right? So hopefully I can pick this up maybe today, maybe. Yeah, you can see the enthusiasm is very high. And my next work in progress, I also enthusiastically started and then have abandoned because I am so in love with my knitting machine that I want to just play with it, and I want to make practice squares and I just want to play with my machine. So anything that I can't do on my machine, I have kind of abandoned for now. But hey ho. If you have been here for some time, You probably have heard me talk about the Victory jumper several times. I have wanted to cast it on for years. Before I even knew how to knit, I wanted to cast it on. And I did. I cast it on, and then I realised that the wool I had chosen, although it said it was, I'm going to say 400 meters. It said it was a fingering weight yarn if you look at the meterage to grams, but if you knit it up, it's actually knitted more on 5mm needles and is a very woolen spun yarn and is very fluffy. So although it's technically on paper like a sport fingering weight yarn, it does not knit up like one. And I did not know this, and I bought all the yarn and then discovered that's not going to work for lace. Fingering weight vintage jumper lace on 5mm needles, no. So that was scrapped. Then I discovered this yarn. I've heard of Peer Gynt before, but I've only known it as a, is it like DK? I think it comes in 100 grams to 100 meters? I don't know. Basically, I thought it was a thick wool, but I've discovered there's a thin version, and it's 400 grams, 400 meters, 100 grams. This is very exciting to me. So I purchased this. I am aware that this is like woolly wool, Norwegian warm wool, and I'm using it to make a lace project, but I don't care. Those cares are long gone. I can never find non-superwash wool that has all the colours, that is thin, that is 400 meters per 100 grams. I can always find sport, and I love sport, but I just wanted to find 400 meters wool, and I never can. So when I saw this, it was add to cart, buying that, and that was a while ago. I finally cast on. I'm slightly concerned it's too big, but oops. I did use my knitting machine to knit the rib. I knitted it flat. I was practicing. So this tiny, tiny little section is knitted on my machine, and then the rest is me. I'm using the colours recommended, and it was supposed to be I think the pattern is short. Gosh, I'm not very well prepared. I'm just guessing everything. Basically, I have no idea if I want this to be long or short sleeved, but I think I'm going with long because it's such a warm wool that I'm going to want long sleeves if it's going to be this toasty. So it's a little bit bigger because I had intended it to be here, and then it would be the right size, but it's already really warm on me now, and I'm thinking I probably wanted long sleeves. My brain is saying, but if you do long sleeves you might not have enough wool, and you'll also be knitting for longer on this project, so you should do short sleeves. But then the other half of my brain is saying, Emily, this is Norwegian wool and it is warm. You should make this long sleeved. It will be more practical. And I think I should probably listen to practical Emily and have it long sleeves. Because I do love knitting, so I don't know why it's like, I must do this faster so it's finished, because then I'll just knit another project. I enjoy knitting, so just enjoy knitting this one. Do you enjoy my random talks to myself? Yes. So I'm very, very delighted that I finally cast this on. I've only got one issue, and that's it's kind of hurting my hands, which this is not the fault of this particular project. My hands hurt all the time, but I think the lace, just knitting lace, somehow, whatever I do with my hands, it just hurts them a bit more than just not doing lace. So it will just be a longer project to knit. So now I have that in my mind, it's fine. Originally, whenever people talked about this jumper, it was like, oh, it's such a fast and easy knit. So my brain was like, it's fast, but I don't know what I was thinking. All knitting takes however long it takes the individual knitter. But now I know it's actually more of a long-term project. I think I can settle in with it, take my time. And I told you it was the Victory jumper, but that was all I said. It is a 1940s pattern, 1945, to basically celebrate the end of the war. And it's free on the V&A Museum website, so if you want to try it yourself, I highly recommend. It's, I'm going to say size 32, 34 inch bust, but if you can do your own adjustments, I do my adjustments all the time because I never have the right wool, so even though all the patterns would technically fit me, I never use that wool, so I always have to adjust my patterns anyway. So I am not very good with numbers and maths, so if I can do it, you definitely can do it if you want to try out a vintage knitting pattern. It's a fun one, and I'm really, really excited to have it in my wardrobe. I always think I want to have it ready for May, for Victory Day, but am I going to wear Norwegian wool in May in Germany? Probably not. So I think it will be more of a winter, a winter jumper. That is where I am at with that one. I have not got any other project that you can see on the needles. I have one project going, I can see it right now, that is a kind of a knit along with my friend, but we're using our knitting machines to knit it. But unfortunately, her knitting machine has been playing up, being a spoil sport. So that one is on the back burner until her machine catches up. And then I will be able to show you when I have finished it. Anything else? So future plans, my stomach is making very funny noises as I swallow my tea. Future plans, I have a couple of knits I want to do on my knitting machine. So I might do a couple more videos of that, in that genre. My husband is requesting that I give him his jumper. I have tried to make him 2 jumpers in the past and both have failed immensely, but he has seen me whizzing through on my machine these tees in a couple of days, and he's like, well, how about I get a jumper on your machine? And anytime he is enthusiastic about knitting or knitwear, I am like, okay, I could do that, I'll absolutely do that. Because generally, he doesn't give a hoot about knitting or knitwear, and he's quite over hearing me go on and on and on about my knitting machine because I'm like obsessively talking about it all the time. But now that he has shown interest in having something knitted on my machine, I am so there. There's just one eensy-weensy problem. I said to myself, I didn't tell you guys, but I did say this to myself. I don't want to buy any more yarn until I have knitted up. Originally it was 10 kilos of wool. Now I'm thinking 5 kilos of wool until I can buy more wool. So if you have seen my video, I think from January and also last year, I was trying to do a stash busting year. I was trying to get through my stash, and it was very eye-opening because I enjoy buying yarn, but my knitting projects are all very lightweight. I am small, so generally I don't need too much wool, but I also make short sleeves, I also make them cropped, and I also make them often in light fingering to sport weight wool, So you don't need very much. And seeing as vintage knitting or socks take me, let's say between 3 weeks and 2 months per project, give or take, you don't get through very much yarn, and which is fine. It's just I hadn't realised this when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get through my stash, it's gonna be great, and then I was so surprised that I still had all of this wool. And the other thing is I really enjoy planning. I love planning knitting projects. I have plans everywhere. They're on my phone, they're on my tablet, I've got them on some on Ravelry, but then others in books. I plan which yarn is going to go with which, but it all takes a significant amount of time, and so the plans can all get made very quickly, and the enthusiasm and excitement, but then the actual knitting and getting them done is a lot slower. So I then got a bit stressed that I love planning and I love buying wool when I go on holiday, like to Sweden or wherever I go, and I feel so guilty when I come back thinking it could be years until I use this because I've got all these plans. And then when my knitting machine arrived into my life, I saw the light. I saw, like, this feeling of relief came over me, like I could actually knit through some of my stash and enjoy the process of knitting, enjoy the finished garment, and enjoy like this successful feeling of knitting the project that I had wanted with the yarn. I don't know if I'm making sense. Sometimes when I talk, people misunderstand what I'm meaning, and I know that I often just talk. My alarm is going off. I often just talk and don't necessarily think everything through. It's just a therapy chat with you, and then it actually comes across completely different to what I was meaning. So I'm not complaining about having yarn, I'm not complaining about having like being too slow. None of this is a negative. It's just I'm verbalizing what the process was going on in my head, and yeah, alas, nothing negative. I'm just talking. I have all these cones of yarn that I have never really enjoyed knitting with by hand, but I really like them on the knitting machine. So I have lots of plans, so that's exciting. I can see the light that they will get used, and they feel really nice when you wear them. I just really don't like knitting them with my hands. And then I've got all this cotton, and now I have less of it because I have knitted this, and I keep having all these ideas of what I'm going to make for people, and I therefore do not want to buy any yarn until I have knitted at least 500, not 500, at least 5 kilos. But we're supposed to be going on holiday in September, which means I have to knit 5 kilos by September. Also, my husband wanted his jumper, so I haven't got enough wool for a man's long-sleeved jumper. So I'd have to buy wool for it. So I have kind of shot myself in the foot because I have been so good with this strictness and this like mission. You're not getting any until you have done this. So like now I can't even buy the yarn that I put in the cart for his jumper because I'm like, no, I'm not allowed to buy any because I haven't knitted 5 kilos. It's so silly. I know, it's so silly, but like I had it in my brain, and I'm not usually very good at giving myself like a yarn diet, but I really enjoyed this concept that I would actually visually see the yarn stash go down so that I could start enjoying buying new yarn in the future and enjoying the yarn that I've seen in cone format for so long, eventually actually being able to wear it and see it into a creation that I don't want to buy anymore because I want to do that, but I need to make his jumper. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now, so I should slow down. I feel like I've had my machine for quite a while, but I really haven't. It's only been 2 months. And so far, I have knitted out, nope, that's in, 419 grams plus 125 plus 115. So I still haven't even knitted out a kilo. And I have made 4 t-shirts. Yeah, 4 t-shirts and 1 headscarf. And it's still not even a kilo. So I'm not sure how I think I'm going to knit out 5 kilos by September without making my husband a jumper. But it's probably an unrealistic goal. I just really, really want to get to knit this. I'm so excited to finally be able to knit some of this. This is going to be such a difficult video to edit because I keep starting and interrupting myself and then going off track. I really thought I would be so calm today. I'm not sure why. I don't know that I'm ever particularly calm, but I'm going to wrap this up now because I'm losing words and the ability to function. So I think watermelon is on the cards. I need some watermelon. So, as per usual, let us finish up with saying I have my vintage make along on Instagram and kind of Ravelry. So that is vintage MAL 2024. And it's a place to put your pictures of anything you have knitted, crocheted, sewn, whatever, into an Instagram hashtag so we can see your fun makes. And it's kind of anything from the 1920s to 1960s, and yeah, it's just so nice seeing everyone's pictures, and I love vintage, so yeah. What else? I am on Instagram, Ravelry and Coffee as emilykatemadethis, and yeah, that is everything. Goodness me, there should be more. So thank you if you managed to get to the end of this video. Well done. You did well. And I will hopefully see you very soon with some more vintage knitting. Thanks. See ya. Bye bye.